look at how Nigerians were, really anxious to know the final result of that election, especially the presidential election. For you, was there any time you were scared on election day and during collation of results that your party will lose the election in the final analysis?
Look, I was always confident, There was an interview I granted on that station, I think a week to the election. And go back and play that tape. I said, I have never been so confident in my life. Even in 2019, I wasn't that confident because I was also the chief spokesperson in 2019. And I told Nigerians a week to this election that I had never been so confident about this election. And why did I say so? I gave reasons. It wasn't because of arrogance. No. It was because of what we saw, on the table. And what did we see on the table? We saw that one particular party broke up into 4. How did they expect to win? I'm still asking these questions and nobody's giving me answers. How did a party who broke up into 4, and a party that did not win in 2019, a party that came second that was beat by 4 billion votes, that party now broke up into 4? That's a simple logic. Kwankwaso left, Peter Obi left, all of them are birds of the same feather, they are from the same yoke. Despite all the struggle, all the attempt to make sure they say PDP and APC are the same. No, it's actually a Labour Party and PDP that are the same. Peter Obi was the running mate to Atiku Abubakar in 2019. Tell me how has Asiwaju got anything to do with PDP since 1999? Asiwaju has been the biggest headache to PDP since 1999. And today, he has proved to be the complete, the final death knell for that party. He has become president-elect. So, and then, apart from breaking up into 3 originally, the original PDP, headed by, Atiku Abubakar became, the flag bearer. You had Peter Obi pulling out. You had Kwankwaso pulling out. Then even the shell left, that shell of PDP, you now had the G5 pulling out again of that shell that was left. How did anybody expect any of those shrapnel to win the election? I am asking that question till today. They just engage in name-calling, abusive words, but then nobody is looking at the science of it, the mathematics of it. This is not about noise. It's about the figures. Let's look at the figures. How were they expected to win? Peter Obi, who came the distant third, that we beat with close to 3 million votes, is today saying that he won the election. How did you win the election? Look at the heat map of the voting pattern. He struggled to a particular point in this country where you have predominantly one particular religion and stopped there. He could not proceed beyond that point. That's the kind of campaign he carried out, and he got the results of the campaign that he carried out. Atiku Abubakar was playing on northern sentiment, saying that they would betray Asiwaju, kept preaching messages of hate in the north, and that is what happened. Look at the results. The results stopped him in the north. He lost in the entire south. Asiwaju was the only pan-Nigerian candidate preaching peace, trying to bring the country together. And today the results show that he had So, coming back to your question, there was no time. No time. I, as a person, if you're asking, maybe someone, you see, a day to the election, people were calling me, even very staunch party members. They say, what do you think? I said, calm down. I had looked at it, I worked it out, and guess what? I didn't tell Nigerians this. 2-3 weeks of the time, we sat down, a small team of us, around Asiwaju, we sat down, and we made different permutations, and we gave ourselves the worst case scenario, depending on results that we had had in this country before. And the worst case scenario put us 2 million ahead of Atiku, the closest rival. That worst case scenario. And guess what happened? That's exactly the result that came out, about 1.9 or 1.8 million ahead of Atiku. And so we got our permutation spot on. And that means that if you look at the results, really, APC, with its strength and wide reach and all of that, actually got the worst case scenario that it could have. The result that that the APC got. We had 20 governors, not APC governors, but 20 different governors that lost elections in their states, including APC governors. Our traditional states before, like Yobe, Kebbi, Gombe, we won. We lost those states. Even the gap, the margin we got in Borno was not as wide as the kind of margin we used to have in Borno. Look at Katsina, the president's state, we won it. So who on earth can come and say this election was flawed? Now you see them planting stories all over the world now with the aim of delegitimizing the election of the president-elect Asiwaju. All those, and you see articles planted in various newspapers across the world in order to give it some type of international flavor. They plant it in one newspaper in New York, in London, Nigeria's flawed election. When those people have nothing, they don't know anything about the demography of Nigeria, Nigeria's flawed election. What is the flawed election? Flawed election is that, oh, there was no automatic transmission. That is the flawed election. Let us look at the law. We are going to look at the law tonight. What's the meaning of that? How does that make it flawed? Does that affect the results that people got from their individual units, party agents? They should bring those results out. And you see them paying international journalists to write all kinds of rubbish about Nigeria. We are waiting for them to come here. Let us show them the facts. We are going to the tribunal. And then they will see the facts. It's not about noise. Law for law, result for result. That was why you can see that a few days ago, they were independently collecting results as they were uploading the results. INEC. The Peter Obi supporters were uploading the results themselves, calculating. When they saw that Asiwaju was leading by a wide margin, without even his core states, his home base, coming into that calculation, they abandoned the calculation and brought it down and said, on legal advice, they were told not to proceed with the collation. Real-time collation they were doing for the world to see. Is that not the same thing we are accusing INEC of doing? They say, okay, after the process, we are going to calculate it. Why not continue for the world to see? Hypocrisy and fraud everywhere. And they have the temerity. People who did not even deserve to get as much as they got. People who played on our fault lines. Who got as much as they got, and they should be thankful to God that they got as much as that, coming to have the temerity to say they deserve more. It's quite unfortunate.
All right, Mr. Keyamo. Now, let's talk about the conduct of the election itself. How will you assess INEC's performance?
Let us start from what the Nigerian Bar Association, my parent body, said. I've looked at the report of the NBA, and the NBA said, look, it has scored INEC extremely high in the conduct of the election. I think they scored INEC more than 80%, and they said it's only 8% of voters that thought that, well, they were not satisfied with the conduct of the elections. INEC used technology for the first time that made sure that you do not bring out results that do not reflect the people that were actually accredited, which had always been the bane of this country. Inflated figures beyond the people actually accredited to vote. And when you see the numbers, a bit moderate this time and coming down, it's because of that technology. It's because of that technology. So, if you look at the provisions of the law, especially the Electoral Act, it envisages, that law envisages that in a country where you have, for example, more than 176,000 polling units, the law envisages that you will have some kind of problems from one place to the other. The law envisages that. And that is why, if you look at the grounds upon which you challenge an election in Section 134 of the Electoral Act, it keeps harping on the fact of substantial compliance with provisions of the law. And that word is used advisedly, substantial compliance. Why does the law, if you go to India, you go to America, you go to everywhere in the world, they use that substantial, not total compliance. And so once you have substantial compliance, you have a pass mark. Substantial compliance means, of course, that whatever has happened has not affected the outcome of the results. And so when you go to the tribunal, go to anywhere, what they insist upon is the results. What happened? Does it affect the results? In other words, you have to first of all show that this is the result I got from my polling agents. And that whatever happened has changed substantially the result of the election. That's all you need. That's all. You must show that. So when somebody came, like one of the candidates said this morning, I'm not challenging the result. I'm challenging the process. What does that mean? How did that creep into, political jurisprudence. When? How? I'm challenging process. The law talks about the results, the final outcome. What you are complaining about, does it affect it? You are saying that, oh, well, there was no real-time uploading of results. So, if there's no real-time uploading of results, and take note, that is not in the Electoral Act. I'll come to that. That's a directive contained in their guidelines, section 30, Article 38 or whatever of their guidelines. It is not in the Electoral Act or the Constitution. Now, you said that there was no real time. Now, when it is finally uploaded, finally uploaded, bring your results and compare whether it has changed the results. That is what the law says, results, not process, results. So, once the results substantially reflects what was put in those ballot boxes, election democracy is about what was dropped in those ballot boxes and counted. Once what was counted does not detract finally from what was announced, you have a good election. Because it is not only by transmission that you calculate the results. It's not only by that you transmit. There's also a provisions in the Electoral Act. Go and read from section 40-something down to 70 that talks about the stage-by-stage collation. From the local from the PO, from the polling unit, you take the BVAS machine plus from ECATA, you take it to the ward level. From the ward level, it's even at the ward level that all complaints are entertained at that stage. For example, it is because of the calculation at the ward level, that is why they made the issue of even the automatic transmission at times. Because if there's any discrepancy at the ward level, at the collation center at the ward level, between from ECATs that are presented and what had been transmitted, then the ward collation officer will now have a decision to make at that point to say, well, what you have brought is different from what was uploaded. And so he can then make a decision at that point. But on and on from that point onwards, every other officer is just a collation officer. You don't have any right to begin to inquire into complaints, even up to the state collation officers and the national collation officer, which is the national chairman. Now, they point to a provisional provision, I think section 68 or whatever, if I'm right, that says then INEC has powers to look into complaints. They have 1 week, 7 days to look into complaints. Now, when you say the commission is not the national returning officer or the national seated as a national collation officer. I mean, it's not that. That is not the commission. It's not the commission. The commission must be either the board or some bodies that will be put together. But that cannot happen unless there is a result. And that was why the chairman kept saying the result has to be, the process has to, has to go through first. And a result must be announced. And they will look at it. And then at the end of the day, if there's no substance, the rest will go to court. But the national collation officer has no powers to stop the process midway. Midway, the law does not provide for that. His duty stated as a national collation officer is to collect all the results brought in by the recs and make a return. That's his power at that stage.
All right, Mr. Keyamo, from what it looks like, the main issue is INEC's failure to, transmit results from polling units in real time. I would like to ask you, don't you think this rubbishes the integrity of the poll? And also, for the purpose of clarity, what does the law say about manual and electronic transmission of election results?
Look, the process by which INEC said they were going to transmit electronically was a mere directive given by them in their manual. It's not in the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act still provides for the stage-by-stage collation of the result up to the National Collation Center. Now, if you look at the grounds upon which you can present a petition, the whole of this noise ends up in what is the ground upon which you can present a petition. Go and look at section 134 and 135. of the Electoral Act. Now, if INEC, for instance, says they brought out a statement a day or two after that, they are facing technical glitches. Now, a simple question I want to ask is that, would it mean that once there's a technical glitch in uploading results, even though the results have not been altered, I repeat, even though the results have not been altered because agents, they have the various EC8As with them, signed by the agents, would it mean that the entire exercise will be cancelled when there's a clear, real, original, alternative way to confirm the veracity of the results? Because don't forget that this directive given, if you look at section 134, 135 of the Electoral Act, it says that any non-compliance with a directive given by the Commission that does not, detract from the law itself. Go and read it. Section 134, 135 of the Electoral Act. That directive, in fact, that law, the law uses the words directive or instruction, those two words, which is what this whole, noise about transmission is about. It's a directive. Because if you look at the manual, it only gives directives to their agents as to how to transmit those results. It is not in the Electoral Act. But the law has addressed that issue, that any non-compliance with directives by any officer of the Commission does not invalidate the conduct of it will not. It's very clear about that. That it will not invalidate the conduct of the elections. So the law has anticipated that itself. The law has anticipated that. And somebody said, well, people keep saying that, well, we want to do justice. We don't want to quote law. You are quoting law too much. What are we talking about? Is justice blowing in the wind? Justice is anchored on law. Justice is not anchored on the whims and caprices of anybody. And that is why laws are made, because the justice must be done according to law. And that is the law we are quoting, whether the justice is in accordance with the law. So all of this noise is between you and me, and I say this with all respect, is a big storm in a teacup. There's really nothing to it. And that is why, if you look at Peter Obi this morning, he has seen the results himself. And that he's changing the tune to say, I'm not challenging the result, I'm challenging the process. What's the meaning of that? Challenge the result now. So you are challenging process. But so you confirm that results are correct. It's a journey to nowhere. Right. I'm sorry.
All right, Mr. Keyamo. Now that the opposition parties have gone to the tribunal, what is the APC approach?
We are waiting for them. They are not gone. That is why you can see I'm at liberty to even discuss some of these issues, because I'm not going. But no petition has been served on anybody. So we are waiting for them. And then, just to address one issue again, I think Section 74, if I'm correct, that says that the Commission has about 2 weeks, 14 days, to grant the request of any party that wants to ask for documents or materials. That the Resident Electoral Commission has 14 days. That is the law. They say within 14 days. So all of this noise at times that they're using to put the system under pressure to say they want to occupy the INEC offices and all of that, it's just actually, they just grandstanding. It's grandstanding. The law says within 14 days. Go and look at the law. That they have 14 days to make all the materials available to them. And they are still within 14 days.
All right, so this leads me to my next question. And if I'm correct, the APC has decided to cross-appeal and inspect ballot materials from areas won by the opposition. Are you expecting empirical evidence of rigging from some states won by Atiku and Peter Obi?
Let me not let the cat out of the bag here. We have also asked for inspection. So we have been granted access to inspect the documents by INEC. And when we get the documents, we'll take it. When we get all the materials we need, we'll take it from them. We want them to serve their papers if they want to. If they are serious about going, to the tribunal. Because I'm sure that after inspecting the documents by INEC, the INEC provides for them, I am sure they will give up and they may not file their petition again. They may not. They may run away.
All right then. So how hopeful are you about validating the APC presidential mandates before the courts?
Look, the mandate by Asiwaju, the mandate freely given to Nigerians, given by Nigerians to Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, is one of the most acceptable, one of the most credible, one of the most legitimate mandates ever in the history of Nigeria, closely following that of the June 12 mandate. Because this is a person who won everywhere in the country. From the north to the south, he won everywhere in the country. So we are confident, extremely confident. Despite all the noise going on, we're going to come down at the end of the day to law in courts. Law is not sentiment, law is not emotion, law is not what you think, it's what it is at the end of the day. So we are extremely confident. We are extremely confident that going by, jurisprudence of election petitions and decided cases, over the years, that it is like a camel passing through the eye of a needle. If you want to overturn an election like this that was done by electronic means, people were fully accredited, votes were counted, and then you can ascertain each polling unit result uploaded with the ones you obtain. Now, if there are discrepancies in some, because what they used to normally, gaslight the public, is that they will just show one or two results, they will put it online, look at this one, they cancelled it. It is not so, it is not emotions, I'm sorry. What the court will do is, okay, they will now say, okay, deduct all of those ones. If you show 10 polling unit results that were distorted, it will not lead to cancellation. Let us educate the public now. So you sort of start deceiving people. What the court will do is that, okay, they'll say, where did these results come from? We are not sure of them. Cancel them. Deduct them from the 2 million votes that you gave the second person. Does it affect 2 million? Does it amount to 2 million votes to cancel the election? That's what the court will look at. The court will come down to that issue, to those issues. Deduct those votes that you are complaining about. Those units you are complaining about, deduct them. The court will not wake up so that you don't, push the country or the public towards a narrative that, well, you have seen a few examples that malpractice took place in some places, and so the whole edifice should come down. The whole edifice of democracy should come down. No, the courts don't work that way. The courts will go mathematically and say, deduct these particular units and see whether the gap between the first and the second is affected. That is what happens at the end of the day.
All right. All right, then I've been speaking with the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Festus Keyamo, who is also the principal spokesperson for the Presidential Campaign Council of the All Progressives Congress. We've been looking at discussing how the 2023 presidential election was won and lost. Thank you very much, Mr. Festus Keyamo, for coming.